administration. Well-traveled, Dr. Isede has attended numerous postgraduate courses and programs in reputable institutions, including Harvard University, Charlton University in Ottawa, Canada, and the United Nations Institute for Economic Development, World Bank International Monetary Fund. He is a life member of the Nigerian Economic Society, NES, Fellow of the Institute of Management Consulting, Member, Nigerian Institute of Management, NIM, Member, World Association of Debt Management, WADMO, and former co-chair of the African Policy Institute, APIS.
Welcome back. And joining us in the studio now is Dr. Chris Isede. Thank you very much for obliging our call, sir.
Thank you very much.
That was a very, very intimidating citation that was read, and I'm very sure a lot of people who are watching us are inspired and they are hoping to be like you in future.
Thank you very much.
We said today we'll be talking about Nigeria's economic sector as an economist. What would you allude to the growth process, the pattern, or how Nigeria's economic sector is growing right now at the moment?
Thank you. I think it's no longer news that right now the Nigerian economy, just like other economies in the world, has been severely impacted by COVID. And only last week, the National Bureau of Statistics released the second quarter report of economic performance. And as you could see from those numbers, the Nigeria economy experienced a 6.1% contraction, decline in economic activity. Yeah, GDP growth declined by 6.1%. That is a massive blow to any economy.
What does that mean? Like, a lot of people might not understand those financial terms. Like when you talk about GDP and talk about contracting.
Okay, when we talk about GDP, we are looking at the monetary, the naira and kobo value of the total economic, the aggregate economic activities of all Nigerian individuals, companies, both in the private sector and then government activities. So you just mentally see it as the total income of Nigeria, what Nigeria was able to generate as an economy during the second quarter. And the National Bureau of Statistics, which has the statutory authority to gather such information, yes, on behalf of all Nigerians, is telling us that during the second quarter, our growth pattern experienced minus 6.1.
A decline.
Yes, backwards.
Backward.
So we moved backwards by 6.1%. That is what it means in
layman terms.
Yeah, in layman terms, so that we're all on the same page.
So would we allude this decline to the pandemic, or it's just maybe because our economic status is not stable enough to, especially when we're comparing with other countries and the way they are facing the way they faced the pandemic issue?
It is not just the pandemic that was responsible for that decline. Actually, the decline during the second quarter was a combination of the growth trajectory, which had actually started way back in 2014. And you are aware that we have been experiencing turbulence in the oil price market. And the COVID, which became a global phenomenon, led to a sharp decline in the demand for crude oil from all oil exporting countries. And that being, unfortunately, the major exports that we have, we experience a big drop in foreign exchange inflow into the economy. The COVID was just one aspect of it, which is external. Otherwise, we also have internal problems, which led to the present state of the economy.
So what are the examples of the internal problems.
Yeah, because our economy, as you are aware, is basically a monocultural economy in terms of exports. Not that we don't export other things, but over the years, we'll be talking about economic diversification, which has just been something that has become a regular talk show by all governments in their pronouncements. But we have not really made serious effort to diversify the economy. Even the recent diversification that we experienced, say perhaps in 2012, 2014, we saw organizations like yours. Yeah, there was a big boom in the communication,
industry,
entertainment, and tourism industries. These are supposed to be growth areas in the economy, rather than everybody looking at the crude oil coming from the Niger Delta.
So what do you think is the major setback when it comes to diversification?
It has to do with what you call economic policy. Diversification can be driven by economic policy and political stability. You cannot have serious diversification where you have political instability. Political instability will lead to insecurity, because if there is no stability, there are likely to be skirmishes here and there. Then you have insecurity. You know what has been going on in different parts of the country. Not just take your mind to the northeast. There's a lot of disruption to economic activities all over the country. There's no part of the country where there's no disruption to economic activities. We are aware that there are some parts of the country where farmers cannot go to work without being afraid of being captured or perhaps even killed by unknown
bandits.
Yes, bandits, call them herdsmen or whatever. So all sorts of criminal-minded people now take advantage of the fact that there is instability, and then they can do what they like. So Nigeria, being an agrarian country, has a lot of issues in the agricultural sector right now. Don't be surprised if we are now heading towards the harvest season of agriculture. Don't be surprised if we start hearing that there is a drop in agricultural produce in respect of some maybe grains. We were told recently by the Federal Ministry of Agriculture that Nigeria actually borrowed 5 metric tons of grains from the ECOWAS stockpile. Do you know what that means?
That's a lot. Talking about borrowing, I remember reading on the news where the Nigerian government is saying they want to get another loan from China to finance some of the projects. What's your take on this loan we've been getting and not repaying, being an economist?
Okay, I know you will go that way, but before I meet you there, let us look at the implication of borrowing food. Let's assume you are a head of family. If you have to go to me, have to come to me to borrow food to be able to feed your family, what do you think that portends for your family, for the survival of your family?
Beggars.
What if I decide for one reason or the other and tell you, oh, I'm sorry, I haven't got anything. Yeah, I don't even have enough for my people. So the economists will call that Nigeria does not have what you call food sustainability. Yes. So we are not food secure. So you have food insecurity. Apart from the physical insecurity we are talking about, which means the country is edging towards food insecurity. You know what it means?
Stop.
I thought somebody said that a hungry man is what? So when people are angry, you know what that means. It will feed the social instability.
I feel it's kind of ironic how where you're coming from, saying we have food instability, coming from the angle that we produce a lot of agricultural products here in Nigeria. When we talk about producing rice now, even the fresh tomatoes and everything. What would you say is the major reason? Because I can only imagine a country that has a lot of agricultural product, and then the country is still suffering from food instability.
It means you are not producing enough to feed the number of mouths you have. The population growth rate of Nigeria is astronomical. It's over 3.something%. By any standard, that is very high. If your population is growing at about 3.5% every year,
and then
you know what that means? If you are 100 million, look for 3.5%. That means, that is the net growth, which means after taking care, if you remove the number of people who died during the year, you have more mouths to feed.
And we have less people going in.
Now, when you have more mouths to feed, and then you have less food coming out of the farms, either due to weather, global warming, there is famine somewhere, or there is drought, and above all, let's not run away from it, there is insecurity and threat to, agricultural produce by farmers. So farmers decide not to go to the farm. So they wait at home now, waiting for alert from maybe their children or relatives who live elsewhere, at least just to stay alive. So if farmers are also waiting to now go to the market to buy food, produced by who? Because you and I, when we go to Sabo market or Igbo market to buy food, we are expected to buy food produced by farmers. And then we exchange what we also produce. Since if we are teachers, we teach their children in school, then they pay us with the proceeds of their food. Now, if the farmer has to go to the market to buy food produced by who? By another farmer.
It's a long circle.
So you can then see why it turned out that we have a decline. We have a shortfall in food production in the country, available food. That is why Nigeria had to borrow from the ECOWAS stockpile. Don't forget that Nigeria is assumed to be the giant
of Africa,
at least in ECOWAS, in our backyard. And now the giant is borrowing from food to eat. Do you see the dent to national pride?
National image.
So we should not allow that to happen.
Talking about borrowing, you talk about borrowing even food. Yeah. Let's leave food aside now. Nigeria has been getting money from China over the years, and a lot of people have been showing concern, not because we've been getting the money, but the fact that we're getting the money, we've not paid back some, and that we are still thinking of going ahead to get another food and another loan to finance some of our projects. So what's your take on the loan?
To start with, there's nothing wrong in a country borrowing money from other countries. There's no country that is self-sufficient. All countries borrow money one way or the other, either long-term or short-term, which we call trade finance. So every country normally borrows money from some other country. Even the United States, in fact, the United States is the largest debtor in the world. Most people don't know this.
Most people don't know.
Yes,
I don't know that.
The United States is the biggest debtor. Yes, in the world, and owes China trillions of, dollars. China itself will be indebted to some other countries. So because it will buy something from a country and take some time before it pay. Before that payment, it is a loan. In the case of Nigeria, it is not only China that we have been borrowing from. We have been borrowing from different sources. We also borrow from European countries. We borrow from multilateral sources, which, like the International Monetary Fund, we want to borrow from now. We borrow money principally from the World Bank, the African Development Bank. We have been borrowing money from the Islamic Development Bank. and other sources. Yes, those are usually, those multilateral sources, they are usually what you call concessional loans because the interest rate is not very high. And then the repayment period, they will give you sufficient time to organize your economy to be able to generate enough income before you can pay. Right now, Nigeria GDP, if you look at it in relation to the debt, you say, oh no, you still have plenty of room to borrow. But some of us are saying we have even over borrowed, so we should match the break as it is now. And we are saying that we should not be using the GDP to assess the capability of Nigeria to pay. Rather, we should be using revenue. Because you do not, GDP includes your grandmother's income. The GDP includes the salary attributed to your housemaid who is taking care of your children in your house. The housemaid may even be your auntie's, your sister's daughter, so you are actually not paying her. But that GDP has already included, if you were to pay her,
how much?
So you see, that is just an academic income. The GDP is an academic figure, but the revenue is real life parameter.
Wow.
That is why the NBS is telling you that in the last quarter, 99% of the total revenue of the government was used to service debt. You don't need to be an economist for you to know the red light that one has switched on. From all sources, Nigeria should be careful what it is getting into.
Thank you very much, sir. It's been a very interesting time here in the studio with Dr. Isede, and he has been talking to us on the Nigerian loan. Now we'll be going on a quick break now, and when we are back, we'll be talking about the loan as regards to small-scale business. Nigeria has been giving out loans to small-scale business. How effective is this loan? Stay tuned. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is still the Magnate. Our me here in the studio is Dr. Chris Isede, an economist by excellence who has been enlightening us on Nigeria's economic sector. Thank you very much for still staying with us, sir. So before we went on that break, we were talking about loan, as regards Nigerian getting loan from other countries or from other organizations out of the country. Now, let's bring this loan to entrepreneurs. The Nigerian government have been giving out loans to small-scale businesses to start their business, to finance the business. How effective would you say this loan?
Dole out, the government give actually loans. Some of them are called grants, which is like, to use layman's language, dash.
Money.
Yeah, so if I dash you money, you are not expected to pay back. So the government also gives out what is known as grants. Then some are soft loans given to young entrepreneurs, like you submit your NYC or degree certificate, and you are given a certain amount of money to do what you have indicated in your business plan, which you submitted. We are all familiar with what a business plan is. So if you play according to your business plan, there should be a stream of income coming to you, which you will now use to redeem that loan. Now, when you talk about the effectiveness of these facilities that are being given out, not only by the federal government, including state government. And I think I also know some local governments that have such, arrangements.
Financial institutions, like some banks do.
You have NGOs that also give out such facilities. The effectiveness, you can measure that yourself by looking at different economic parameters. First of all, what is the objective of those facilities we are talking about, whether given by NGOs or whatever, is to boost production and generate income for the recipient. and keep them gainfully employed. You will see that employment generation was one of the big objectives. But has employment been declining?
Unemployment has been declining.
Has unemployment been declining? The answer is no. You saw the figures released by the NBS last week. We have unemployment rate of 27.1% as we speak. The NBS, I'm putting government statistics, told us last week that 63% of Nigerian youths are unemployed. Because you will see it there. That means out of every 100 Nigerians, youths you see around, 63 of them have no job, are unemployed.